Good afternoon, good morning, or good night, wherever you're at. This will be my kind of first long form-ish video. I'm gonna call it. I don't know if it's gonna quite hit the criteria of a podcast, but anyway, I just felt compelled to talk about this subject right now and use this microphone that I bought a while ago and never use it because I want to do something like this. So, there's no time like the present. I've gotten some messages from people or comments about, oh, your camera quality is terrible. If you had better quality, your videos would probably do better. And I apologize for that. I'm working off of a Google Chrome OS, and I'm trying not to say sorry. So, eventually I've kind of been going through a hardship in life with financially, as we all are, and no, not to get into detail and stuff about it, but anyway, eventually I'll upgrade because I enjoy this. I do my little guitar videos. Actually, the point of that, just before we get this started, is I collectively have been playing music for about 20 years. I don't really, to be honest with you, someone who likes music, I don't really like musicians. Like, generally, there is a pretentiousness or like a important sense of self in what they bring in. And I'm not saying it's not important. It's just something I never really vibed with. That being said, during this kind of downtime, I've been structuring songs. Actually, I've gotten better than I've ever been at guitar this past month, but it's also been a really hard month. And so I guess I should record an album. I'm going to call this this title of this an introduction to self-destruction. It's a series I'm going to do. And it's basically about, the self-destruction of these people, these idols, these people we look up to, whether they be pop icons, poets, musicians. I love music, listening to it and stuff. Why we're obsessed with this self-destructive lifestyle and how that affects us physically, spiritually, whatever. I spent a good part of 11 years in the clinical field working in corrections, working in psych hospitals with juvenile offenders, with adult offenders, in social work settings, case management, stuff like that. And so I've studied people and their habits, including myself. There's no better subject than yourself on this. And so I'm just going to go over a few key topic points. And this isn't rehearsed. It's my style. I just go record. Probably a flaw. I need to script stuff, something I probably should work on. But then also there is an authenticity. There's some of us like that raw music, that raw, unrehearsed, loose blues type of stuff. I do. And sometimes there's gold in that, as opposed to something that's so well rehearsed that it just becomes systematic. And so that's kind of my approach. I think I need to meet a happy medium. But anyhow, on with the subject. Hopefully this mic is working. I should have done a mic check. I got this back here so let's talk about probably a band most of you won't know. See that? The Flower Leopards. There's a band that came up in the 80s. Kind of in the punk. I would say they're almost crossover metal. And I've always loved that band. I don't even know how I got introduced to them as by accident, but I was just fascinated with their story. And so I'll kind of go as best I could into it from what I know. The singer, I believe, the singer and Shane Inholm are the only ones, the guitar player and singer, that are alive right now. Shane Inholm was, he was a runaway kid, kind of like I was, got into trouble, went into juvenile facilities. And so that automatically made me, relate to him later in life. And he ended up getting indicted on 29 bank robberies. Shane Inholm, I think you can only access him Instagram, but probably the most fascinating person you'll ever meet. I could hear that guy talk all day. He's very pragmatic and well-rounded. And so anyway, talking about that band. kind of one of the more self-destructive bands I've heard of. And just listening to their songs, it makes sense. Kind of talking about streets and drugs and, women, that lifestyle some of us were ensnared to. The singer, sorry, not the singer, the bass player, Mario Valencia, very good bass player, very thumping Motorhead-ish. He died of AIDS-related stuff in the early 2000s. And then Jeff Wolf, fantastic, the other guitar player, fantastic, died of AIDS when it was the first thing. Both, I imagine, from what I hear from other sources, I've actually gathered interviews from other people that knew him over the years through Facebook and stuff, and got a hold of their contacts. I've always wanted to do interviewing with that kind of stuff, but that's another story. And he died like when the AIDS epidemic was a, new thing. And then the drummer, I know he was living in a tree house somewhere in LA, and then he overdosed and died. So I don't know what's our fascination. Let's talk about me, no us. What is my fascination with these self-destructive people? Is there something going on within? I've suffered from the self-sabotaging, self-destructive nature, and just, it's a question I ponder all the time. Like, why was I so obsessed with this music? It wasn't necessarily like it was angry music. I think people they kind of lean towards the music that, they generally is the baseline of how they're feeling. But also, I do believe that, like me, Alice in Chains, great band, beautiful band, but I won't really listen to them because it's very sad. I don't want to call it pessimistic as much as self-defeating music. And so I do guard my mind from what I allow in. I could appreciate the art, the craft of it all, but it is important for us to guard our mind. For me, I'm sorry, I don't mean to preach, but for you all to guard your mind, what you let in. This comes with movies, all that. Like, I have a friend that's obsessed with Bukowski, Charles Bukowski, and I read some of his stuff, and people are so obsessed with this guy. And again, I'm not diminishing him. I don't know him. I'm not God. I can't judge him. But it's all very pessimistic. It's very not pessimistic. It's very cynical. I don't know. It's just not a beneficial way to view life at all. And I just don't see, he's saying things in a weird way that maybe some of us could identify with. And this happens a lot in music. It's like, oh, they said what, we didn't want to say. They said what we wanted to say but can't. And, I've always also learned in life to be discretionary in what you say. 'Cause sometimes when we say what's on our mind, I've gotten fired from jobs because of that. And so, I'm sorry, I'm like all over the place. This is my first time. But my whole hope with this is to get better equipment and all that. And I just want this series called An Introduction to Self-Destruction, go over various artists and break down, my years in the clinical field and the spirituality of it, I know a lot of people are, the Bible and stuff. I've been reading it a lot. I've had my struggles with God. I didn't find God till I was 26 years old. And walked away right after that, became twice the son of hell because of it, because of the way I approached it. And in my struggle right now in life, because I am struggling, I have, been drawing closer to him because I know that I can't do it on my own. And so, I try to connect the dots, my ADHD of these bands. Like, what am I, why have I always been, and people in general, like, why the hard partying life, this and that. And so these people say these glamorized people of whatever era were, drug addicts, partiers and stuff. But, it's a weird dynamic because they had all the money and stuff, accessible to fund their lifestyle. Talking about a certain group of people, and obviously the contacts, and that way, that's kind of harder because for them, if they wanted to get clean, but it's a sad thing. I'm glad I never made it in the music business because I never even tried, but if I would have killed myself. I would have not suicided myself, but I almost have drinking myself into oblivion and done other stuff. Probably would have been one of those guys died of AIDS and whatnot. I want to like pick, this is just like a premises. It's like picking this. I'm just going everywhere. I will hone these down, script them out, and actually pick individual artists to focus on per stream, episode, whatever you call this stuff now. But and break down again like the psychological elements in it, whatnot. I didn't particularly. I used flower leopards today because the only one I've actually ever talked to was Shane Inholm, and understand a lot. He got out of it. He went to prison for 9 years, struggled, got clean, came out, became a tattoo historian. I didn't know that was a thing, and he's just a great personality. And he got out of that lifestyle, and seemingly the only one that did untethered. Or no, he's got his. We all got our battle wounds, but he has a sound mind, and he made it. It's very interesting. It's also a good thing. Everyone loves a success story, and yeah, it's like I'm so dualistic because one side of me is like, yeah, that's I don't think it's cool. I don't idolize people. Say like Darby Crash from the Germs or whatever that died young, live fast, die young, leave a pretty corpse, as Elvis said. But it is fascinating to know everything about their lives. So I'll read as much, ask people as much as they can about these figures in whatever genre, just to understand more so what was their demise, what was their vices, what caused them to go down so quick. We all struggle with, we all are addicted to something, person, place, or thing, regardless. We always have to fight the flesh. But what caused these people, and why are people so obsessed with their, with the little bit we all are of the time they spent on earth, these artists, these people. But I go walk down the street and there is 100 homeless people that maybe have had their life extended, but same thing. We don't care about them. I learned that working in the field, asking, everyone's got a story and everyone's got a crazy story. Even someone that comes from middle class, upper class, we've all had our struggles and stuff. But obviously, in the arts, people are the focal point because everyone in one way or the other, again, person, place, or thing, has an interest in the arts, whether they admit it or not. And so as a society collectively, we do, I could sit there and appreciate the art, but guard my mind to understand. I've lately, past few years, I've just been reading and, listening to podcasts like every close to be middle-aged white guy does, but, and that's just, I don't know. I definitely am really about guarding my mind because everything dictates your emotions. Everything has an effect. We don't believe it, but it does. Everything has a spirit behind it. And it's well for us all to guard minds. I mean, I had a friend that, I won't say his name, he listened to Norwegian black metal, like church burning metal. And he was always in a horrible mood. And one day he like spilt a bunch of stuff on his, it was like a shake or something. And so his CDs were like gross and he was too drunk. And so they kind of like caked together. And so anyway, just simply him shifting, because we would, we'd ride and die, they're rolling homies. And he just shifted his music from what he had in his car. It was just like kind of some older stuff, some classic rock and some stuff like that. And his mood just changed. It was like immediately, and it got better over the days. And so that just stuff like that. And I mean, that was a simple synopsis of it. But I mean, I can tell you, like, not just his mental, like his face, everything, his aura changed, and everything has an effect on us. Everything we read, we do, I mean, I could get into it, even what we eat, but that's another discussion for another time. But my whole point of this, I know I'm everywhere. Maybe one person will understand this and like, oh, I get his mind. It's like Charlie connecting that meme, but these people, though they can be appreciated for what they contributed, all these people in the past, these artists, we're all different. Everyone's an individual, and it's wise for us to understand that whatever they were writing, song like music. Let's just talk about music. Whatever they were writing, guitar, whatever instrument they were playing, or poetry to translate into lyrics. That element, the spirit of what they were going through, what their views were, goes into that. And that's why I'm saying it's just wise to have a point of reference. Say your point of reference, Buddhism, whatever, Bible, kind of understanding that, okay, what they're saying, and if you're going to listen to that in view, we can't all get away with it completely. You have a point of reference, something to compare it to and understand, man, Though, singing about this and that, like, it's not good. It's not, they did not have a good demise. They didn't have, no one has a good demise, but they did not exit this world on their own terms, really. No one that overdoses, dies of a venereal disease, or even commits suicide, really, as controversial as really leaves on their terms. I mean, you think that when they grew up, that they just like, yeah, I want to die on my own terms and I'm going to kill myself. No, stuff got so bad. They allowed so much into their head that it literally, this stuff affects our neuroplasticity. We think of drugs only, and I did that years in the field, and alcohol, but actually what we take in, the dopamine, this social media stuff, it can be very great. You can get information. I've seen some great stuff, but also there's a lot of garbage out there too. And that's the whole point of this right now, is kind of introduction to this series, is just guard your mind. Just be careful what you let in. If you're going to go into escapism, because we all escape at one point or the other, all right, just filter it, just regulate it, because, it's going to affect how the way your subconscious works. It cannot regulate what you take in. It doesn't say, oh, we're watching Nightmare on Elm Street. It doesn't say this is fake. It won't, your body won't know that. So you'll have like a cognitive dissonance going on there of this, front delta or beta and delta. No, on one side they can't tell it's real, on the other side. So it's a division. And I noticed when I took all that stuff out of my life, there was a bigger peace. Am I at peace fully right now? No, I'm struggling with just life in general, but there is a lot more clarity. And, there's associative, teach and recover. I have associative bands I used to listen to a lot when I was younger, when I partied. And sometimes I'll hear it and I'll be like, I kind of get that feeling, like, that was a good time. It makes me reference to the past, and like, yeah, it doesn't necessarily like make me want to drink. It does sometimes, or do whatever I did, but it's just the fact of sometimes it's time to move forward. And when we're referencing to the past, like, that song reminds me of my teenage years, that's okay, but at the same time, we should be consuming stuff that keeps us present and looking forward, but also stuff that doesn't keep you too forward, like the whole, we won't talk too much about the toxic self-help industry of it's constantly, putting, it's like if someone's really overweight, it's like, you're a blah, 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 and you're broke. And so that puts you into a highly anxious state, because what's going on tangibly right there, you can't be fixed. Now you can take actions to do that, but that's a future. So you're constantly looking in the future. And so you wonder like, oh man, you can't be present, and yeah, like I said, dissatisfaction, it's good. It's a good motivator, but the whole key is to stay like present. It's like, I look at it like this with that fitness industry, that's why my name is Death Coach Syndicate. It's kind of like a, opposite. It's going against that, because it puts so much pressure on the people. And yes, these things is good. Their accountability partners and stuff are a good thing to a point, but I'm not going to tell you where you get your strength and your reliance from. That's not for me to say in this video. But just the best advice I can give you is, in my situation, because I have a future I'm worried about, is to stay present. And it's a constant battle. It's not hard. I mean, it's not hard. It's very hard. And so, again, I go to that in the fitness industry. I notice is everywhere are the self-motivation stuff. I mean, I've consumed thousands of hours as a means to counteract it. And there is validity in truth, but behind every truth, there's also, behind some truths, there is a subtle lie, and I see it a lot there. And that's why this youth, it's focusing so much forward on, yeah, get ripped, get rich, you know? There's nothing wrong with any of those things, but they are self-focused goals. And not many people actually reach those. And if that's your identity, which your money and your body, well, man, your body will wither away no matter what. You can drink the wrong water, get dysentery and die, or get an amoeba and lose weight, lose all your muscle mass. And then money, obviously we know how money works. You can just lose it all in a second. So I know this is everywhere. I keep saying that, but this is kind of what I'm starting, a little series on this. It's going to be more crafted and homed in. I actually will script it so that someone like me, as much as I like to do it raw, I need to get out of my comfort zone and script it. I want to go over these individual people, various people that I like, that I looked up to, and just kind of give you a spiritual reference to it and a psychological reference to it, just to just as a new view. I don't think I see anyone doing that, and if they do, tell me about it. If you even watch this video, I'd like to see it. But I'm gonna end this here, my brothers, sisters, and peoples. Peace.